Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. We are gonna wait for a couple of seconds for the rest of the attendees to join. Thank you for the ones joining already. We have some participants already here. But in the meantime, I'm gonna give you the words of welcome. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this second edition of the European Network of Local Resilience Task Force webinar series. I'm Laura Pira San Palomar from ECLIMATEFIT Europe, a partner in the EU-funded project CLIMATEFIT, which is the project where we are having the context of this webinar. I'm pleased to guide you today to today's session. For the ones joining us for the first time, the Local Resilience Task Forces are a multi-stakeholder structures established in different territories within the ClimateFit project and beyond. They are bringing together different actors like public authorities, financing and investment entities, technical organizations, civil societies, and other local actors to strengthen climate adaptation and mobilize investment in at the territorial level. With this webinar series, we are aiming to connect these territories with other peers across Europe, showcasing methodologies and lessons learned, and expand the growing European network of EUNLRT's community. Today's sessions, we are focusing on one of the core components of the ClimateFit process, the investment strategies. This is a structured approach to help territories analyze their climate adaptation needs, prioritize actions, and prepare investment pathways that were developed among 17 territories. But before we start, a couple of recommendations. So please, if you want to raise your questions, we have a Q&A section up in our the bar here at Teams, so you can make your questions while the different speakers or panelists are speaking. You are invited to participate in the questions, and if you are giving the word, then you are welcome to open your mics. But in the meantime, while the others talk, we invite you to keep your mics off. After that, then I think I can give the word to our keynote. First, we're going to have Keith England. Thank you very much for joining us. He's the Senior Climate Adaptation Specialist at Paul Watkins. So please, Keith, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Laura, and really lovely to be with you all today. Let me just check if my screen is working. Hang on one second. I'll share that. And then hopefully we can just check. Is that working? Has that come through okay?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, so I'm delighted to be with you. I have been following the ClimateFit project for a while, and it's doing some really, really great work. We have been providing a little bit of support, but today I'm really going to take a step back and look at the kind of bigger opportunity around linking place-based adaptation and governance with the kind of work that is going on in ClimateFit to mobilize funding and finance. So that's fantastic. So I think it's worth just talking a little bit about the context. So we know that there's a very big adaptation finance gap in Europe. It's quite difficult to measure, but the World Bank and the European Commission thinks that we need about 15 to 64 billion euros a year through to 2030. But it's also really difficult to track what money is flowing. And we had a little go in a sister project, Pathways to Resilience, last year, and we think the sort of adaptation finance flows are around 8.3 billion to the EU 27 cities. So we know there's a big gap, and actually at the heart of the EU's approach to bridge that gap, they're putting these place-based collaborative approaches. So they're trying to create 150 resilient regions by 2030. And a lot of that is happening now. There's some significant mobilization underway. You can see the little map on the right, which shows all the different charter signatories. But we're not going fast enough. And I think the EU climate risk assessment and some of the extreme events that we've seen show that the risks are still outpacing the adaptation. And then within that, I think it's also important to highlight that all of the mission signatories still find mobilizing adaptation finance a real challenge. And I think, though, what we can see is that place-based approaches will really help us in that. So when we talk about place-based approaches, we're talking about approaches to adaptation and understanding risks and then moving forward to adaptation that take place together in a region or a municipality that involve lots of different actors. So local governments, but also public bodies such as health bodies or environmental bodies, as well as the private sector and also funders and financiers as well. And there's lots of reasons to do this. So the first is around actually addressing risks and adaptation, which is that many of those risks can really only be addressed together. So, for example, hospitals are dependent on electricity infrastructure to operate, or the private sector is dependent on a functioning transport network to be able to sell goods and services. So those risks really need to be understood together, planned for together, and addressed together. But also there are some extra benefits. So when you start working at the local level, local people and organizations have these very big desires to create better places that, retain their cultures, their identity and importance in the face of climate change. And you also start to be able to leverage existing opportunities to mainstream adaptation. So by integrating adaptation into ongoing activities, needs and local priorities. And in doing that, it also offers the opportunity to minimize the sort of extra burdens that adaptation will create, that climate risk will create for existing economic, social and environmental pressures. So whether that is on inequality or whether it is on unemployment, climate change threatens those priorities. And so adaptation is a really great way. Those collective local approaches are a great way to adapt. And then lastly, there's a very practical one around value for money, which is that actually there are very many collective and common training skills and capacity building needs, and a lot of work that organizations need to do to build their understanding of climate risks and move forward can actually be done more cheaply and more effectively together. So I always think it's helpful to look at an example and to think about how that can be extended to look at finance. And Glasgow City Region, where I was involved as the manager for the place-based partnership there, was very helpful, I think, as a good example. So just very briefly about Glasgow. It's a region within Scotland which has about 1.8 million people. So it's about a third of Scotland's population, as well as about a third of its economic activity. And it involves 8 different municipalities, which are a mix of urban, rural and coastal locations, with a range of different climate hazards as well. So thinking about river and surface water flooding is really the kind of main risks in Glasgow City Region. But actually in Scotland now, heat is also an emerging risk, mainly because it's something that communities are not used to dealing with. But Glasgow is also very undertaking a lot of work on its economic development, and there's a £1.1 billion city deal which is investing in lots of new infrastructure, and a lot of the work in the city region is very economics driven, very focused on the Scottish economy. And they were really keen back in 2015 to explore an adaptation partnership, and I started working with them to set that up. It was called Climate Ready Clyde, and Scottish Government provided about £100,000, about €125,000, to start the work on preparing a risk assessment, a strategy and an action plan. But it didn't have an ongoing funding model, and we were able to turn it into a sustaining locally funded partnership that was funded by 15 different organisations who pooled their money together. It wasn't a lot, about €10,000 a year from each organisation, and they pooled that together to provide a core function and facilitate a regional partnership. And that partnership combined adaptation planning with policy advocacy and capacity building activities, because we knew that adaptation planning took quite a long time. So, over the 3 to 5 years that we ran that process, having earlier sort of near-term things that people could come to and see value from was really important. But we were very fortunate about halfway through that process to be funded by EIT Climate Kick to develop transformational adaptation approaches. So particularly having a deep focus on economics and finance and on social justice. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those approaches and then come back to how I think ClimateFit presents a really fantastic opportunity for public authorities and FIEs to work more effectively on financing adaptation. So before we had sort of worked on the adaptation strategy in Glasgow, we were already using economics and financial approaches to help make the case for more ambitious and more urgent adaptation action. So, for example, early work involved costing historic weather events to make the case for action. It involved looking at future climate risks through an economic lens and looking at the potential future costs of climate change and using that thinking to inform prioritization, similar to the EU climate risk assessment. But we were also appraising the economic value of adaptation goods and services within the region. And the graph in the top left just shows you a little bit about some of the sort of sectors and sales of adaptation goods and services to try and make sure that the positive impacts weren't lost, even though the risks were very big. And we were also very fortunate to be able to partner with the European Investment Bank through the EU's urban agenda to undertake some early economic appraisal of potential adaptation options as well. So that was great. But then what we did is extended that work into the strategy and into the action plan. So the Glasgow City Region's adaptation strategy is framed with the economic costs of inaction, and we use some results from a Horizon 2020 project called COACH, which really looked at the costs of inaction under different SSPs and RCPs, different future climate scenarios, to help frame the costs of adaptation for Glasgow. We also did some economic appraisal of the strategy interventions, as well as an early estimate of the adaptation finance gap. But we were also doing some things that you will see in the ClimateFit project itself. So things like the investment landscape approach, which is really great in ClimateFit. We had a very less established process within Glasgow, but we were looking at sort of current and potential sources and instruments for the different strategy interventions and mapping those together, which was really helpful. And we also identified a range of actions that improve the enabling environment within the region as well. We also had some activities, move my slides there, that were designed to support project financing. So again, we had some business cases for early priorities, so around early warnings, around building retrofit, forestry, and an adaptation finance lab. But we also did work on some investment concepts, so thinking about high-level adaptation funding and financing solutions, so things like a revolving fund to support retrofit of buildings for heat. And we also put together these detailed delivery arrangements to make sure that the finance would flow properly. And together, those things created a strong enabling environment and, really importantly, a sense of the roles and responsibilities of different public and private organisations for funding and financing. And it had quite a big impact in Scotland. So the core financing for the strategy work unlocked at a sort of an additional 2 million for further development of actions. But it also involved mainstreaming adaptation into big funding streams for Scotland that were sort of post-EU funding streams. So one of the biggest ones was around 170 million a year for public institutions. It also went on to inform the EU's Pathways to Resilience programme. And in Scotland now, there are regional adaptation partnerships maturing across the country after it was included in a commitment in the most recent National Adaptation Plan. And to complement that, we're now rolling out adaptation investment planning training across Scotland. So that's really great. But actually, there's a really big opportunity with the work that ClimateFit has been doing on its LRTs to go even further. So in ClimateFit, we're aiming to involve finance and investment entities in the governance of place-based adaptation. And that's really complementary to other EU projects, such as Pathways to Resilience, where we're looking at economics and finance across the whole adaptation cycle. And ClimateFit offers the opportunity to go even further to do that detailed adaptation investment planning on particular priorities. The work in Glasgow, I think it shows it's important, probably essential to address the barriers and crowd in private funders and financiers by you doing this kind of work. But I think it needs to be really carefully timed with stakeholders. So thinking about, is it financing entities or funders that you're trying to involve, whether it's about those who've got a role in there or a stake in their particular place, or whether it's very place specific. So I think that engagement will need to be carefully planned. But I think it's really fantastic, and it will mean that cities and regions have a great opportunity to address some of those finance barriers. So hopefully that's been a quick jaunt through, but sets up the webinar nicely. And I'll hand back to you, Laura, if that's okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kate. This is indeed very, very inspiring. Also, the work that you've done in Glasgow and in these other initiatives. So this is, I think, a very good start for setting up the scene for the webinar. Definitely, this is going to be very, very much useful. And before we go into detail about the investment strategies methodology within the ClimateFit project, we would like to get a little bit more the idea of who is in the room. So for the moment, I'm going to give the word to my colleague at ECLA Europe, Marcel. Please help us with the dynamic to know who is in the room now.
Hi everyone. We do have some questions in the chat. I'm not sure if you want to go with them now or after. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Kit, I think this is for you. Beakas, if you want also to open your mic, we can have maybe 1 minute for this, and before and after, then we go to the Slido dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to respond, Laura, if that's useful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the question in the chat was really about, does the LRT framework offer an alternative funding or finance strategies that don't place municipalities to take on additional debt? So I think that's quite a specific question. I guess what I would say is that it doesn't prescribe any particular choices around how funding or financing should take place for different adaptation options. Instead, the process is more about creating the space for the discussion around how to fund or finance different adaptation priorities. So it's not really about deciding who should pay. I think that really depends on a range of different factors, including the sort of economic and financial characteristics of the adaptation that you're trying to take forward. I guess the thing that I would say is what the ClimateFit project and kind of wider framing is happening in Europe now is it does say, well, the costs of inaction are very large, and tries to encourage local places to think about adaptation as an investment in that context rather than just a cost, because the costs of doing nothing will be much, much higher. And so I think it provides that framework and that context, but it doesn't tell, it doesn't make, help make individual decisions about how to pay for things. That more depends on the adaptation, and the frameworks and the tools from ClimateFit can help you think through those issues, but they don't kind of give you a single answer. So thanks.
Thank you, Kit. Yes, indeed. Exactly. Also different locations, different regulations. So yeah, we invited also to follow our socials, our ClimateFit website, all the frameworks that are going to be public throughout while they are ready and public. You are going to be able to consult them also on the website, and then follow up with the LinkedIn also from the project, and we are going to post and keep you updated about all the outcomes and outputs from us. So now, Marcel, I'll give you the floor.
All right. So thank you, Laura. So before, as Laura mentioned before, we'd love to get a better sense of who's joining us today. So we've set a few quick Slido questions to make this more interactive. So I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. I also putting in the chat in case Great. So this will only take a couple of minutes, just 3 questions. So yeah, so please open the Slido using either the link that I posted on the chat or the QR code. And yeah, you can select the option that best fits you on the type of organization that you represent, from local public authorities, private sector, research, NGO, others, or FIEs. It seems that we have a lot of public authorities, some private sector, NGOs. And I'm not sure, I cannot see the chat if someone is specifying the other. All right, so it seems that definitely the public authorities are winning with average 38%. So let's go to the second question. So where are you joining from where are you joining us today? You can enter your country, city, region, whatever you feel it's more relevant. So since we have from, okay, Strasbourg, Slovenia and Romania, Barcelona, Manchester. All right. Seems Slovenia is the one winning for now. I have some people from Moldova, from Turkey, Portugal, Italy, Flanders. Great. So, well, thank you very much. And finally, on the third question, so what do you hope to get from today's webinar? So yeah, feel free to just add some words. For example, could be some insights, some practical insights, learning, could be networking, inspiration. So knowledge exchange. So more knowledge and inspiration. Ideas to find financing models. Private sector funding strategies. Examples. Experiences from local territories. Right. It seems that new knowledge and inspiration are the main ones here. And yeah. So I would say that's it. So thank you very much. This is really helpful for everyone, for us, to know also what you're expecting from this webinar and so on. So yeah, thank you so much for participating. And yeah, and I would say, Laura, back to you.
Thank you, Marcel. And it's very exciting to know that we have all diverse locations in our webinar today. So that is the idea. We want to expand all the experiences across Europe. And also, please, if you feel that you have interesting experiences that you can share with us, you can post it in the chat for everyone to know more or less also what is your your advances or your interactions within different initiatives that are aiming for the climate adaptation and climate finance at your local level. But for the moment, now I'm pleased to hand over to Chiara Trozzo and Lilian Matgut from CMCC, which are a partner in our ClimateFit consortium project. They have been leading the investment strategies, and they are supporting their implementation across the multiple territories that participated with us. So Chiara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura, and good afternoon to everybody. And happy to see all of you connected, and also again happy to see some, let's say, familiar faces. So I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, and
yes, but not in
now in presentation mode.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Okay, so let's try to, let's say, deep dive a little bit into how to design an adaptation investment strategy. But before going into, let's say, into all the steps and information, we would like also to hear your view. So again, you can, let's say, enter into the Slido, and I will, let's say, here you should, let's say, see the Slido. Okay, I kindly ask my colleague Salvatore to open the voting, so you can access to, let's say, to the Slido, and here you can find the code, and okay, and then you can start voting. Yeah, Salvatore, it seems that the voting is closed. Could you please check?
Yeah, I opened it 2 times. Maybe now it's working.
Okay,
yes,
now
I see the votes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see. So let's still wait a couple of seconds. Okay, great to see that, let's say, great to see that actually the majority chose the right one, which is all the above, because actually an investment strategy, and then in this way, yes, I will come back to the slides. So the investment strategy is a set of strategic principle, and that could, let's say, help the public authorities to increase the public financing and boost private investment in climate adaptation, using for sure a systemic and catalytic approach. How to do it? So we tried within, let's say, the ClimateFit project to design an hands-on methodology, so a quite practical document that could be useful for public authority to implement this sort of systemic and catalytic approach, and then to translate their local adaptation strategy into investment strategy, and so try to find the financing and investment sources. But it's important to say that these documents for sure are embedded into a bigger picture, starting, let's say, from the European directives and landscape, going a little bit down into the national context, so through the different national adaptation strategy, into the regional and, let's say, departmental one, and then for sure into the municipal one. And for us, it is important to mention that this investment strategy should be designed and implementing not through a siloed approach, but they should be, let's say, clearly talk with and design in synergy with other strategic documents that we know quite well that, let's say, public authority are developing and adapted to their context. So as mentioned, as you can see, let's say the idea is to not start from the scratch, but to take the, let's say, the adaptation strategy at different level, because I can understand that maybe not all the region, not all the territories have their own adaptation strategy. But for example, you can go to, let's say, to the higher level. So if regional or at least national, and use this document as a guideline to identify your possible policy priorities and goals, your let's say your priority sectors and action, and then with the investment strategy try to define the time horizon, as also my colleague Keith mentioned, a possible, let's say, cost estimation, and try exactly to identify the financing gap and the related investment needs. So what we did, as mentioned, we tried at least to design a hands-on methodology, which consider different contexts and level of advancement. And this is why we try to make it as much as comprehensive and flexible. And this is why we thought the, let's say, sort of modular approach could be, let's say, useful. Here you can find, let's say, the different 10 modules, the different 10 milestones to be included or applied when designing an investment strategy. In the methodology, for each of the module, we defined guidance principles, the resources needed. We provided also some examples, and for sure we provided some concrete templates. So here you can find, let's say, the flows or the flow of activities. So we are quite aware that there is not a recipe that fits for all. So we try to propose a sort of timeline that could be applicable, but we know that could be, let's say, adaptable to the different contexts and needs. And also, as you can see, also because some of these steps are, let's say, interlinked between each others by a sort of feedback loops, especially when you are defining the adaptation option and try to identify costs and funding mechanisms. So just to go a little bit deeper into the modules. So the first one is the assessment and prioritization of climate risk and sectors. As Keith mentioned, a lot of studies are now available at different levels. Just mentioned to you that we authored the European Climate Risk Assessment that was published last year. So if you do not have enough information, neither at national nor at the local level, it could be a good starting point. And so the idea is the main goal is to identify the risks and sector to be prioritized into the investment strategy. For sure, it's important to have a clear in mind the context overview. So the regulatory framework, the policy priority, the local condition and constraints, all the documents and initiative already developed, and for sure it is important to coordinate and collaborate among the different departments, so breaking the silo approach. When designing the strategy, it is important to also identify the barriers, so the possible challenges, obstacles, and at the same time the enabling condition, and for sure the actors to be involved. For example, this factor could be related to the policy or regulatory or also economic context. So then we start thinking of the real adaptation option. So starting from the one identified in the adaptation strategy. and try so to let's say connect this option on the with the prioritized risks. Then start try to estimate the costs and benefits. So consulting studies, sectoral and specific studies, or just, for example, review similar projects. It could be nice to have to review also projects that are implementing in the same area. We are thinking here of, let's say, of high level. So the idea is to not have, if not possible, a concrete number. If you can already have, let's say, a numerical estimation, that's better. Otherwise, you can try to estimate them through ranges. Then the idea is to tracking, let's say, the public expenditure, so the budget lines devoted to the different sectors. And for sure, in this step, it's crucial the involvement of the financial department. And for sure, then it's important to identify the time horizon of the action and investment, so if it is short term, medium term, or long term. Then the idea is to identify the possible financial sources and instruments, so type of instrument, the size and the expected financial returns, the type of entities, if they are public or private, or if they, for example, they are the PPPs, so a public-private partnership, if they need some, let's say, specific regulatory framework. And then, let's say, when starting identify the possible financial sources and instruments, the idea is to do the matchmaking between, let's say, the adaptation option previously identified and the potential instruments. So it's important to consider the characteristic of financial instruments, the option, and for sure the possibility of bundling option, and for sure combining instruments for a same goal or for a same action. Last but not least, which we put that let's say, as the last step, the last module, but we think it's more an overarching module because it seems important to establish concrete governance mechanism. So shared responsibilities. Our message is that an adaptation investment strategy, it's a shared responsibility. It should be the result of choral effort among departments. So as I think we are, let's say, quite, and we have still a couple of minutes. So based on this brief presentation, we would like to know your experience. So going back to the same slide, we would like to know which module might be the most challenging to be applied in your territory. You can choose for sure one, more than one. So. High level. No, it's okay. I'm not surprised of the results because actually, and then maybe we will listen a little bit more also in the, let's say, in the next discussion, with the panel with our territories. Actually, the high level estimation of cost and benefits has been also one of the most challenging issue for our territories, for our ClimateFit territories. This is why, as I mentioned, actually, to be honest, we start thinking and try to find, let's say, concrete and estimation with numbers. So try to put numbers near to the adaptation option, but it has been quite challenging. And this is why, discussing with the other partners, as I see Alexandra also here with us, we thought that maybe we should apply a lighter approach. So at least for the strategy step, try to have some sort of ranges, because as also Keith mentioned before, then the idea is to translate the strategy into a more detailed and concrete document, such as, let's say, the adaptation investment plan. So just to close the presentation, and Laura, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, there is one small question maybe that will help to understand the module number 3, but that what was that the barriers and enables conditions. So maybe that was useful for Samuel in the chat.
Could you show module 3 again? Okay, let's go here. No? Okay. So let's say the module 3 is on barriers as enabling condition. For example, just to give you a concrete example, for example, a barrier could be the lack of the needed regulation to be put in place for, let's say, for enhancing financing mechanisms and private investment, let's say, into an adaptation option in the, let's say, for, yes, in adaptation option on the transport sector. Just to this, let's say, the first sector that came into my mind. So could this, let's say, this could be a barrier. A possible solution could be, for example, to work with the needed stakeholder, and this is also, and this is why also the LRTs are real and important place that can foster collaboration and put into reality this choral effort I was speaking about before. So the idea exactly is to collaborate with the needed authorities to develop the needed regulatory framework. But for example, an enabling condition could be that, let's say, there is already a private business investing their money, let's say, in electric buses in that city or in that region, and so maybe let's say the city, the town or city department could, let's say, liaise with this private business and try, let's say, to grab some money or some funds for improve and extend the impact of all these initiatives in the territory. I hope I answered quickly. So just to conclude, as I mentioned, we implemented this methodology in our territories, and then you will listen more in the upcoming, let's say, panel. What we emerged here, some very high level results that for sure this methodology help bringing stakeholders together. The involvement of a stable core team across the different steps supported coordination and continuity, but also, as I mentioned, the governance structure created both from scratch or bringing together different experts from the territory helped really in drafting and designing the strategy. The structure of the methodology enable a clear understanding of the context and support the development of a really hands-on strategy. And the modular sequences also, let's say, facilitated more focus and concept-specific discussion. But we have for sure some challenges and gaps, such as, let's say, capacity constraints, tight timelines, and early matchmaking, and for sure dependencies on the progress of the LRTs. So the idea, as this is, let's say, this investment strategy methodology was one of the first miles that we went through during the, let's say, the ClimateFit project. In the meantime, the methodology has been refined, also thanks to the experience of the territory, and for sure we hope that it's, let's say, only one, let's say, the first milestone of a long journey together. So thank you, and then I will pass the floor to you again, Laura.
Thank you, Chiara. That was a great presentation and very insightful and also very clear. I think that gives a very good overview of what the investment strategy was and is, and how the local territories can implement it or follow the timeline that you proposed there. Now we can move to the central part of today's webinar, kind of like the one that is showing the local territories perspective. To guide this exchange, I'm pleased to welcome Alexandra Jonet from Actiera, who will moderate the conversation with their representatives from 3 territories that have taken part in this investment strategy process. We're going to have Simone Pagliari, the director of Innova 21 agency, which is an association of 10 municipalities in West Brianza, the province of Monza, and 2 non-profit organizations. Vlasta Kremel, mayor of municipality of Selnica of Dravi in Slovenia. She's a member of the European Committee of Regions, and she's also the director of the Regional Energy and Climate Agency. And last but not least, Melanie Traumschlager. Melanie is from the Strasbourg Climate Agency in France, graduated in political science, and she has been working in several European projects focusing on environmental issues as a climate finance project manager at the Climate Agency. So with this, Alexandra, over to you.
Thank you, Laura, for the introduction. As Laura said, I'm Alexandra Jonet, who will be facilitating this panel discussion. So let me share my screen. Sometime, if I can, yep, you should be able to see it. We will be starting this panel discussion by a short introduction from each panelist of the territory. We will then jump into their return of experience in developing an investment strategy. As we said at the beginning, the goal of this webinar is to provide you with insights, with return of experience, with concrete return from territories having applied this methodology, so you can maybe a bit project yourself into applying it on your territory and maybe try to make it more concrete. As Laura said, please feel free to ask the question in the chat. As I'm not seeing the chat right now, for now, I will take the question after the first question. And depending on the timing, we will either answer you directly through the panel discussion or by the chat. And if we can't provide you with an answer right now, we'll be following up with an email. That might be the best way to go forward. So I will let the panelists present their territory. We'll be starting with Simone. If you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm Simone, the director of this strange association, very strange in Italy. We work in West Brianza. West Brianza is the area in ClimateFit project. West Brianza is a part of the province of Monza, north to Milan. It is a very, very densely urbanized area with the highest population density in Italy. There are peaks of 70% urbanized land and over 2,500 inhabitants for a square kilometer. Very, very difficult territory. The area is crossed by the Seveso River and its tributary. Both rivers are completely canalized. Due to this urban planning approach to the territory presents a night vulnerability to climate change. Floods, heat waves, urban flooding are the main climatic risk of this territory.
Thank you, Simone.
Okay.
Then Vlasta, if you want to go ahead to present Selnika Abduravi.
Yeah. Hello. So I'm presenting the area of municipality of Silnica Odravi. So we are in the other side. So we are very rural area. We are small municipality. So we have a low density. It's about 4,600 inhabitants on the 64 square kilometers. But as you see on the picture on the left, they are concentrated a little bit in a valley, and then we have a lot of hills and some people living there. Yes, of course, we have a lot of climate risks, but due to the topography and hydrology, because we have also big river running through, we have a big problem with the flooding. We have especially heavy rain, and because it's quite slopey area, we have a lot of these surface floods, landslides, and of course the storms. You see also the picture left. This is the picture from our graveyard from 2 years ago. So they just cut off all our trees together with the sitting areas. And this is our area.
Thank you, Vlasta. To finish, Melanie, if you want to present the city of Strasbourg.
Yeah, thank you very much, and welcome everybody. Thank you very much for being online today. I'm working for the Climate Agency, so we are like a facilitator for the ClimateFit project, working closely with the metropolis of Strasbourg. And we are located near the German border, so really at east of France. So it's like with a dense urbanization, 33 municipalities. And one of the two main risks are in bold, so there are increasing temperature and flooding and mudslide. I put a map of the France. As you can see on east, we are on the very red part, when in 2050 we are going to have temperature record that will be more than 55 degrees. You can also have a map where you can see all the heat islands when there is a heat wave in the 33 municipalities. So basically there is heat waves everywhere. One of the main adaptation measures we are trying to implement to reduce the heat islands, for example, are the greening of the cities. So this is why we put also an image to show you what kind of greening we can have in playground, for instance. And yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you. Now that we have a bit more clarity on the context of each territory represented by the panelists, we will guide you through with a few questions, and we'll go ahead. I will stop sharing my screen so I can see the chat and my colleagues, because I was blind for now. The first question that I wanted to ask each of the panelists was, considering the investment strategy methodology that was shared by Chiara a bit earlier, which part of the investment strategy development do you consider a success? If we can go ahead with maybe Vlasta, if you can answer at first.
Yeah. So especially for our country, Slovenia, as a part of the Eastern Europe, joining the EU only 20 years ago. So we don't have any experience with the investment strategies, especially not with the looking very directly to the some investments possibility, because we are used to use just public money. So I think the great success, especially in such a small municipality as we are, was to bringing the knowledge to all stakeholders, that they were able to understand what is so how wide the area of adaptation is, and how much the consequences of the climate change are influencing not only environment but also human resources, how they are getting to each household, to each plains, to each forest. So I think this bringing this together, the knowledge, new knowledge and understanding of different people within the municipality and also with the stakeholders, I think this is the very big success, that we are on the same level of understanding. And then when you bring them together to understand the point of vulnerability, the point of the interconnection between the different aspects of the climate adaptation, so then it's much easier the next step looking for the financing options. And I think this is what we can say, it's really the success when we prepare this strategy.
Thank you, Vlasta. If you want to go ahead, Simone?
Yes, when you have seen my territory is characterized by a collection of small municipalities with a very limited capacity of action within their administrative borders. The development of investment strategy was very interesting for me because it promoted a supra-municipal approach, and not only in design, but also from an economic perspective. This is the very point of success for me. This same approach has been used in other past experience in the area, for example, the drafting of the 2 climate transition strategies on the SECAP, the Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan from Covenant of Measure. But the supra-municipal approach to land design becomes a supra-municipal approach to investment. This is the real success. Municipalities must together seek investment not only for on individual activities, but within a larger territorial design. Supra-municipal approach, for example, to cycle path to connection between green areas, the paving policy, and also the sustainable urban drainage system and their integration, all to the construction of, I think, useful and also more economical sustainable project. This is the very point of success for me, for our experience.
Thank you, Simone. Melanie, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you very much. From us, I agree also. I think what Simon and Vlasta said, there are a lot of links about what you said about the supra-municipal work, and also the fact that it makes an interconnection of adaptation. For us, I see this interconnection in the fact also that we identify in different level where adaptation is on the European level, national, regional, local. So we identify everywhere where we can find adaptation, and it helps us to have a more definition and to see how the EU metropolis is already using adaptation, and so that helped us to identify also the network we could build, who is working on adaptation, public actors, private actors, that also helped us to be with the building of this adaptation finance landscape that Kit mentioned before. It was really something new for us. So to identify these people, to meet these people, to see what we can do together. And one last thing I would like to say also, it's that I think it's a very transparent document. We also identify the barriers to adaptations. So why we don't go fast enough, what is it lacking, for instance. I can give you an example at the governance of the metropolis. So like I said, 33 municipalities, different services, different departments, they all have their goals, their targets, and sometimes, adaptation needs to be taking into account everywhere, but it's not something that you should put elsewhere. And that was very hard to see that these departments are sometimes working in siloed. So we really need to work on to implement adaptation as a whole in the policies and also in the search of finance. And so I think it's really helpful to also have identified these barriers to know where we should now begin to be able to go faster in the adaptation actions we want to implement on the territory. So that was all this analysis was very helpful.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you all for providing such a good overview of what, on your opinions, the success factor of the investment strategy development was, what did it brought to your territory. In mirror, I would like to ask you, like, what were the challenges? Because I think it's important that we, as we are trying to share the methodology, that we are able to pinpoint the success, so people get inspired and are getting they want to go forward. But I would also like to hear you talk about the challenges and how did you manage to overcome them in order for everyone to get a clear picture of what it could look like on their territory. If we go, if Melanie, you want to go ahead, maybe, if you started talking a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. First, I talked to you about the main risk we have in Strasbourg, but there are different types of adaptations that could help to reduce the risk. But it's very hard to prioritize them, and it was mainly work with several persons at the metropolis. But we didn't have the time to present all these adaptation actions to some elected people to see is it the good decisions we want to make about these adaptation options. So we decided to choose 19 adaptation actions and rank them, which one are the most effective, which one are the one that are going to cost the most. But this was something we kind of had to do alone, because in a European project you have this deadline, the deliverables, that's fine, but sometimes to take this new approach and to understand it and to then to try to discuss with many different peoples, it was kind of difficult to have the time to do it. So sometimes, yeah, I think the biggest challenge was really to be able to be sure how do we choose the best adaptation actions. And also maybe another point is that this methodology is very new for us, so to use this economic appraisal, it was also difficult to understand the methodology, so we needed time. And now it's very interesting that we can see that more and more people at the metropolis understand how we want to work together. But it's not something that is natural for metropolis or for municipalities, I would say. So yeah, it was quite challenging to understand exactly how we can use the methodology and to be sure we are making the right decision.
Thank you, Melanie. Simone, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. The biggest challenge I think we faced was identifying the territorial actions need to address land adaptation. This is the biggest for us. Having such a densely urbanized territory is a huge difficulty in identifying and implementing also adaptation action, because the costs are very, very high and the results are not always positive. The interventions and also the targets in the climate transition strategies have been approved at the political level, but not yet at the municipal implementation level. Yes, to the political level, but not in the technical, in the implementation. But for this reason, to hypothesize a financial gap of adaptation of territory, we start from the data already processed and to set for each municipality. For example, the paving target, the target all multifunctional cycle path with a linear sustained urban development system, and the connection between the green areas, a target for new planting, a target for MBS, the action of enhancing civil protection, also the MBS, the natural based solution. In this way, we assumed the necessary economic resources for the implementation. In the developing of this investment plan, we have given up using already scheduled action to avoid underestimating the necessary resources. In this way, we have identified around 20 million of euro as the resources needed for a forced and likely set of new action. Obviously, a complete adaptation of the territory will require many more economic resources, 10 times, I think. I hypothesize, but this is very estimate is reasonable. Adaptation is very, very expensive, but consequences of no action are much worse, I think.
Thank you, Simone. I have a question in the chat regarding the actions that you identified. It was, what do you mean by the results are not always positive? I'm not sure that we understood that part. From what I can confer is like when you build adaptation action, you are trying to reach a goal, and you can't necessarily guarantee the long-term benefits of the solution. Was it something that that you meant, or was it more something that you're trying to address the problem, and without knowing you only get short-term benefits and not long-terms that you were reaching out?
It's very difficult because the territory is it's highly densely urbanized. Also, so if we also identify an action, but the implementation, the results of this implementation are not always positive, because the system is very, very complex. For example, I build a sustainable urban development system, for example, SADS. It's possible, but the results are not completely positive. Not because the problem is very, very big. It's possible that this action is very small to response. This problem is because a single municipality has not the resources to face off the big problem. Yeah. This is the real problem. In this case, it's not positive. It's not completely positive. It's not positive.
I see. Thank you for clarifying that, Simone. Vlasta, do you want to share the challenges that you faced? Maybe if you want to go back to the initial questions.
Yeah, to my small municipality with a small budget, so only 5 million. So the biggest challenge that we faced was talking to the financial institutions. Because of historically, the municipalities in Slovenia, they usually do not talk to financial institutions. We have a lot of public resources. We think we have, in reality, we don't. Then we ask about the debts so that we can lend some money, but all other proactive communication with financial institutions, we have as a municipality even smaller municipality, we don't have it. And on the other side, also financing institutions, they don't have a experience of discussing with the municipalities proactively about the financing different projects, specifically climate adaptation projects that are really difficult. So this was a big challenge. Firstly, to have a contacts, then to have an understanding on the other side, what do we want as a municipality? That we, in reality, we don't have a concrete one project, but we have a set of a different projects, ideas, needs on the ground. And because only very few banks had already developed the program or the line to finance such a project, so they haven't developed yet the whole range of different mechanisms how to help with this adaptation. So we had to go not only to the operative level of the financial institution, but also ask, to talk to the same managers on a little bit higher level of the governance at the financing institutions, and also assurance companies. And this is very, very new in Slovenia. It was really challenging. We are, I will say, on the halfway. We are developing this and showing the way how this could go in the future, but we are not on the end yet. But you really need a lot of time and patience to explain the topic, to explain what you need, to explain the approach. And I think when you finish this investment strategy on the end, you already have this on the paper. I think the next steps with the similar strategy will be easy, because you have a paper and you said, hi guys, I already know a little bit of the financial landscape. Here is my idea. You can read it and then we can discuss. But when preparing the first financing strategy, I think it was like stepping very new, and they were, oh, this is a little bit strange. Oh, this is what do I think? And I think this was challenging for both sides. At the municipality to be brave enough to discuss with someone that is really mastering the financing, and on the other side, to see that really financing institutions, they don't always understand the position of the municipalities. Maybe they can help, but they don't have a clear view. So you need more meetings. You have to explain many times. And I think after this stakeholder engagement quite deeply, I think we are progressing, and I hope we will be able to solve these challenges also in the positive way.
Thank you, Vlasta. Thank you all for answering this question. I hope it provided a few insights to all participants today. What we can basically, summarize really quickly is that all those questions related to how to finance adaptation, how to bring forward adaptation actions to financial entities are dependent on first of all, the knowledge of the municipality. So first of all would be like to ensure that within the municipality, within the territory, there is people that are understanding the matters that they are talking about, and maybe able to play this role of intermediary between the municipality with the adaptation options and the financial institutions that are not necessarily knowing of what the municipalities need and talk about, basically. We can also, I think, be reminded that as we have 3 very different territories there, there is also difficulties that are related to each each category of territory, and we assume that we tried, at least in ClimateFit, to get feedback from each type of European territory that could exist, and hopefully if you don't get an answer from today's webinar, the materials that we are producing within ClimateFit will provide you with example written of experience that could help you solve those challenges as well. what time is it? Yeah. So we have time, I think, for a last question. And as I said, don't hesitate to ask in the chat anyway. So we talked about a bit during the first session, the first part of the webinar about what we call an LRT, which is the Local Resilience Task Force, basically a working group that is resting on innovative and social innovation. The idea is to create a group within the municipality that is able to play this role of intermediary between the municipality, within the municipality, and towards other stakeholders. With such, we created such a group in almost each territory, and the question that we wanted you to answer today was how did this Local Resilience Task Force, this working group, provide you with a space to discuss funding and financing opportunities with other stakeholders? How did you manage to make it easier to engage with stakeholders, and what did it bring to the discussion? Simone, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, so Agenzia Innova 21, Agenzia 21 was born 20 years ago to support public administration in environmental project and build also territorial partnership within public administration and local stakeholder. In this case, Agenzia Innova 21 is in the experience of ClimateFit with the support of Ambiente Italia, was the Local Resilience Task Force, okay, in timely contact with the technician of the many municipalities involved in the project in the West Brianza. The added value provided to the municipalities of the pilot area was the territorial knowledge, environmental data, also and their processing. In the last 5 years, yes, in the last 5 years, 2 different climate change transition strategies have been elaborated. And starting from this, the intermunicipal SECAP, the Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan, was elaborated. Thus, we have a good database regarding both climate change mitigation and adaptation. We have, in this moment, we are currently working with local municipalities on the possibility of an integrated territorial investment at the European level, and some regional funding from private foundation. But the very key from the local work was the experience of Innova 21 and the timely contact with the municipalities. This is the key for our experience with our area.
Thank you, Simone. Melanie, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, sure. For us, the LRT helped a lot in many different cases. First of all, maybe within the metropolis of Strasbourg, because it really was the occasion to talk about adaptation and to explain to everyone why adaptation is important within the metropolis, so in the different services. And then, like I said at the beginning, the fact that we identified all the actors that could work on an adaptation to have all this network. When we organized a first meeting last year to talk to them about adaptation, it was very interesting because we did not only have local actors, but we also have regional and national actors, private and publics. So it was a big mix of different people, and it was also an event that launched a dynamic about adaptation and why it is important to think about how and why we should finance adaptation. So yeah, there is this dynamic that is still here, and also that we are trying to spread at the regional level, because now, thanks to this EUNLRT, we are in another network at the regional level, and in a project that is going to last 10 years. So where we are going to show how we could find ways to finance adaptation. So yeah, that's, I think all these things were very interesting, and now the EUNLRT, we want to have this project, this flagship project on our territory to show concretely how we can mobilize private funds to help us to fund this adaptation project, to have models, and to be sure that this EUNLRT is going to stay alive on the territory. So yeah, I think all these reasons were very positive for us.
Thank you, Melanie. Vlasta, do you want to share your experience here?
Again, these are experience for our small municipality, rural area, where people are much more connected. So we have used, or we are still using, the added value of this local resilient task force to involve not only the municipality staff that is dealing with this area, but also politicians and also some local association and the groups, different groups, because we think especially in these small municipalities, also citizens, they have to understand what is going on, and also the politicians. And usually, as you know, in our municipal council, there are not people that have really big knowledge about the specific areas, but they have to understand the importance, the possibilities, because they talk to each other, they exchange the ideas. For example, we have a lot of elderly people, so also their voice and their saying how they see this adaptation is giving our municipal staff the idea maybe how to prioritize the actions, how to deal with them on the ground. So I think it's not only the task force that is preparing some documents, but it's also the task force for the discussion, sharing experience, and also building the knowledge. And we see that this understanding of the subject and building this knowledge is really very, very important when we come to the final decision, which is now the actions that we really finance in our budget, because with the 5 million and very small part to be able to go for the investments, and municipality has not only adaptation but some other social aspects, investments that need to be done and have quite a small part linked to the adaptation, but still have to be done. You have to always wait what is most important, which should go first. And I think with this discussion within this task force, we can get view from the different angles and then try to get the right decision. And of course, politicians on the end, they decide through the municipal budget. This is also politically done. And I have to say, due to this open communication and transparent, we usually don't have any problem when deciding, okay, this adaptation project is now the priority. We usually have quite a political agreement also within the council that this is the right one.
Thank you all for your insights. What I find particularly interesting in all three of your experience is that you all decided to translate, to interpret the local resilience task force model, depending on tailoring it to the territories, to what you are used to, what is already been done in the territory, and maybe the innovation is to try to fit this social innovation process into something that is really tailored to your needs. I think it's most important to engage stakeholders, and EUNLRT provide the space for this and involve, as you all shared, a variety of stakeholders that is really interesting, from the citizens to the private sector to all the public institutions at all levels. And what we want to share within ClimateFit is that the LRT methodology is supposed to fit all needs, but not with the same process. So, and I think this is something also that you well said, is that you can integrate this model of working group to something that is already existing, and that the goal is to bring adaptation funding to the table somewhere, to make sure that stakeholders discuss. And I really thank you for your experience now, because it provided this diversity that we want to promote within ClimateFit. So I think we don't have more question in the chat. So Laura, I will give the word back to you, and thank you again all for the inspiring answers today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you all, Simone, Vlasta, Melanie, and of course, Alexandra, for the moderation. I think this is a great overview, and this knowledge of the experience of how to implement this type of strategies, and how to face the challenges, and how to start planning, because as you all mentioned, it's kind of like something new for some of the territories, and especially it got my attention, the super municipal approach. I think normally we are thinking just in certain areas across Europe, maybe cities, but also the regions are quite important governance structure, and kind of like the context that we have in our continent. So I would like to invite, maybe we have still a couple of minutes for the people in the audience to put your questions in the chat, or raise your hand, open your mics. We would like also to hear from you which type of initiatives, or if in your regions have developed something similar to this investment strategies, or if there is some other initiatives that you are involved in. We would love to know a little bit more about you. We would like you to connect also with the different stakeholders that are online right now. So please open your mics, your cameras, if you want to share something with us that you feel could be valuable. This is the space for doing this before closing the webinar today. Good. Maybe everything is clear, but as I was putting in the chat already, as some people were asking, this webinar has been recorded, and it's going to be public in our website. I put it already in the chat. So a special thank you also to KIT England for bringing the scope and setting up the scene of today's webinar. This is very valuable also to hear from other perspectives. Thank you, Chiara from CNCC, for bringing us all the context about the methodology of the investment strategies. And thank you again to Alexa for the great moderation. And a special thank you again to Simone, Vlasta, and Melanie. This is very valuable to us to have local experiences across all the methodologies that ClimateFit is developing right now. So we are very grateful to have your notes, your experiences, and yeah, kind of like the insights of how to move forward to this. With this, I think I can wish you a very nice afternoon to all. Thank you again for joining us, and follow up in our socials as well for next webinars. The next and third webinar of this series of the European Network of LRTs is gonna be in the summer. So stay in touch with us. We're gonna have a third session also having experiences from the local territories across Europe in across the activities in ClimateFit. Thank you all, and wishing you a good afternoon and Happy New Year.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.